Hey, Mike.
Hare Krishna, how are you?
Good. Everything's a little hectic on a Friday, I think. I don't know when Maitreya is going to jump on, but we should just go ahead. Let's see here.
Were we on 48? Is that where we left?
We're on 48, yeah. Well, let me see if I can pull up the thing here. Low resources, okay. Let me get out of a few of these apps. Hey, did you see the post about the event tomorrow and at the Kirtan Center?
No, I didn't.
You know where Vandergrift is?
No, but I know it's not too far, but I'm not.
Yeah, it's about 40 miles or an hour from Pittsburgh. There's a holiday festival and New Vrindavan devotees are going there, organized by Brandon. He's a young man who's a book distributor. We're going to do Harinam and book distribution tomorrow. I'm going to go there. I'm just closing out all these windows here so I can get better performance.
No, I haven't been on any kind of social media yet today.
Yeah, well, it's just a mountain of garbage unless you're using it for preaching. Let's see if I can get that screen up here. Chapter 2, there we are. We'll just go ahead and start. I don't know if he wants to review it, he can do it later. You can see, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, go ahead and read the first verse.
Okay, text 48. Yogasta kuru karmani sangam tvaktva dhananjaya siddhi asidyo samabhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Yogasta, equiposed, kuru, perform, karmani, your duties, sangam, attachment, dvaktva, giving up, dhananjaya, O Arjuna, siddhi asidyo, in success and failure, sama, equiposed, bhutva, becoming, samatvam, equanimity, yoga, uchyate is called. Translation. Perform your duty equiposed, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga.
Hey, you know a little bit about this app here. Can you join if I'm online, or can you just request to join a meeting even if I'm not online?
So I believe, whoever is the moderator of a Zoom meeting has to admit people.
I know that. Yeah, it has to admit, but can you request to join even if I haven't launched the app yet?
So yes, I can go and request to join, but I don't know on your end if you'll see any alerts or not, because I know like other.
On my end, I always see like an email.
Okay.
Will send me an email.
I know there's other meetings that I've done online, and I've joined, and it's been well before the person running the meeting has done anything, and so I just get a little notice. It says like, you'll be admitted when the person, or admitted when the person starts the meeting.
Yeah. I just didn't know if you could even request to join before. I think you can, because one time the meeting was canceled and somebody requested to join before the meeting, and I got the email even though I wasn't online. So that's the way it works, I think.
Actually, I remember there was a person who was was posting in the Kirtan Center before you started this. Somebody was planning a Gita study in the first night that was going on. I tried to join, but it never happened. I was just waiting for a while, and then I closed it out. So yes, you can try to join a meeting if.
And the person that's the moderator will get a notification in the email.
Okay, I've never done the moderating before, so.
Oh yeah, I think that's the way it works. Okay, purport. Krishna tells Arjuna that he should act in yoga. And what is that yoga? Yoga means to concentrate the mind upon the Supreme by controlling the ever-disturbing senses. And who is the Supreme? The Supreme is the Lord. And because he's himself is telling Arjuna to fight, Arjuna has nothing to do with the results of the fight. Gain or victory or Krishna's concern. Arjuna is simply advised to act according to the dictation of Krishna. The following of Krishna's dictation is real yoga, and this is practiced in the process called Krishna consciousness. By Krishna consciousness only, one can give up the sense of proprietorship. One has to become a servant of Krishna or the servant of Krishna. That is the right way to discharge duty in Krishna consciousness, which alone can help one act in yoga. I'm going to read this final paragraph.
Arjuna is a Kshatriya, and as such, he is participating in the Varnashram Dharma institution. It is said in the Vishnu Purana that in the Varnashram Dharma, the whole aim is to satisfy Vishnu. No one should satisfy himself, as is the rule in the material world, but one should satisfy Krishna. So unless one satisfies Krishna, one cannot correctly observe the principles of Varnashram Dharma. Indirectly, Arjuna was advised to act as Krishna told him.
Text 49. Durena hi avaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddho sharanam avicca kripana phalahetava. Synonyms. Durena, discarded at a long distance. He, certainly. Avaram, abominable. Karma, activity. Buddhi yogat, on the strength of Krishna consciousness. Dhananjaya, will conquer of wealth. Buddho, in such consciousness. Sharanam, full surrender. Avicca, try for. Kripana, misers. Phalahetava, those desiring fruit of results. Translation, O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities as far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. Go ahead.
Purport. One who has actually come to understand one's constitutional position as the eternal servitor of the Lord gives up all engagements save working in Krishna consciousness. As already explained, Buddhi Yoga means transcendental loving service to the Lord. Such devotional service is the right course of action for the living entity. Only misers desire to enjoy the fruit of their own work, just to be further entangled in material bondage. Except for work in Krishna consciousness, all activities are abominable because they continually bind the worker to the cycle of birth and death. One should therefore never desire to be the cause of work. Everything should be done in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of Krishna. Misers do not know how to utilize the assets of riches when they acquire by good fortune or by hard labor. One should spend all energies working in Krishna consciousness, and that will make one's life successful. Like misers, unfortunate persons do not employ their human energy in the service of the Lord.
Text 50. Buddhiyukto jahatita ube sakrita duskrite tasmad yogaya yujasva yoga karma sukoshalam. Synonyms. Buddhiyukta, as one who is engaged in devotional service. Jahate, can get rid of. Iha, in this life. Ubhe, both. Sukrita duskrite, good and bad results. Tasmat, therefore, yogaya, for the sake of devotional service. Yujyasva, be so engaged. Yoga, Krishna consciousness. Karmashu, in all activities. Koshalam, art. Translation, a man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions, even in this life. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of all work.
Purport. Since time immemorial, each living entity has accumulated the various reactions of his good and bad work. As such, he is continuously ignorant of his real constitutional position. One's ignorance can be removed by the instruction of the Bhagavad-gītā, which teaches one to surrender unto Lord Sri Krishna in all respects and become liberated from the chain of victimization of action and reaction, birth after birth. Arjuna is therefore advised to act in Krishna consciousness, the purifying process of resultant action.
Text 51. Karmajam buddhi yukta hi phalam takta manishina janma bandha vinir mukta param gachati annamayam. Synonyms. Karmajam, due to fruitive activities. Buddhi yukta, being engaged in devotional service. He certainly phalam results tvaktva, giving up, manisina, great sages or devotees, janma bandha, from the bondage of birth and death, vinirmukta, liberated, padam, position, gajanti, they reach anamayam, without miseries. Translation: by thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead. You go ahead and read the first paragraph.
Purport. The liberated living entities belong to that place where there are no material miseries. The Bhagavatam 10:14-58 says, Samashrita ya para palava plavam, mahat param punya yasho mure, avamburir vatsa param param param, param param yad vipadam na tesham. For one who has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Mukunda, or the giver of mukti, the ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's footprint. Param param, or the place where there are no material miseries, or Vaikuntha, is his goal, not the place where there is danger in every step of life.
Owing to ignorance, one does not know that this material world is a miserable place where there are dangers at every step. Out of ignorance only, less intelligent persons try to adjust this to the situation by fruitive activities, thinking that the resultant actions will make them happy. They do not know that no kind of material body anywhere within the universe can give life without miseries. The miseries of life, namely birth, death, old age, and diseases, are present everywhere within this material world. But one who understands his real constitutional position as the eternal servant of the Lord, and thus knows the position of the personality of Godhead, engages himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Consequently, he becomes qualified to enter into the Vaikuntha planets, where there is neither miserable life, nor the influence of time and death. To know one's constitutional position means to know also the sublime position of the Lord. One who wrongly thinks that the living entity's position and the Lord's position are in the same level is to be understood to be in darkness, and therefore unable to engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. He becomes the Lord himself, a Lord himself, and thus paves the way for the repetition of birth and death. But one who, understanding that his position is to serve, transfers himself to the service of the Lord, at once becomes eligible for Vaikuntha Loka. Service for the cause of the Lord is called Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga, or in plain words, devotional service to the Lord. I was just, do you know Nityo from New Vrindavan?
Yep.
Yeah, he engages me sometimes in picking up boga because he's been doing some prasham distribution there on the farm. He was making doshas and sambar and stuff during the summertime, and he buying like coconuts to make dabs. You punch a hole in the coconut, drink the milk, cool, very, cool coconut water, not milk, but water. Anyway, now he's doing honey. He sells honey. He distributes honey through the store there, and he had me pick up 2 big buckets of 5-gallon buckets of honey at this honey farm up in near Burgettstown. He didn't want to drive all the way up there, and so I drove up there and pick up the honey for like $360. But the lady there was very nice. And speaking of birth, death, old age, and diseases, I wrote I think I gave you a pamphlet, Dodging Disease and Death Indefinitely. I wrote that. I was thinking about writing a book. I don't know if I will, but I wrote an introduction to the book, which deals with the problems that they're talking about here: birth, death, old age, and disease, especially diseases now that is the elephant in the room in 2020, and now probably will be for the next couple of years at least. But nobody really deals with these problems, and so I was talking about that. I gave the lady the pamphlet, and I was talking about bees. You got to speak to them on their platform. And I actually studied bees when I was in grade school or in junior high school. And bees are amazing animals. You know, they have what they do, how they organize their society is they send out these worker bees, and then they find out where the flowers are. And then they fly back into the hive and they dance. They do a dance. And from the dance, the other workers can find out where the flowers are, how far they are away, and in what direction they are. And it just, made me think about, like what these stupid scientists say, all these things that are in this world, like bees and their behavior, are caused by random combinations of chemicals. And that is just so outrageous and ridiculous to me that I just really get mad when I actually think of how ridiculous it is, because they want to take away the credit of God, who's created all these sublime living entities who are part and parcel of him. And so, I was talking to her about the bees and gave her the pamphlet. And I said, if you're interested in this, you can get a book too. And so I offered her the book, Beyond Birth and Death. And I just said, you can give any donation, doesn't matter, just to cover the cost of printing. He said, well, how much should I give? And I used David on the pundit's line. He said, well, we try to get less, not more than $100. And I said, but you can give whatever you want. And she said, and, I guess she felt a little bit obliged since I was, from our patronage. So she gave me $10 for this little tiny book, Beyond Birth and Death. I don't know if you've seen this, but I like that idea of like giving a pamphlet first and then kind of like talking with them, just to see where they're at. And then, I could tell that she was an intelligent person. And by engaging in that conversation, they understand that you're not doing anything for your own like profit. And so they trust you, And so then for tomorrow, since it's Christmas, this is like a Christmas festival. I think they didn't have it last year up in whatever that name of that town is like there, but because of the pandemic, but now they're reviving it. And since it's a Christmas festival, around last Christmas, I wrote this little piece called The Remarkable Similarity Between Christ and Krishna's Birth and Activities. And, there's like a lot of amazing parallels, like Christ was, Herod found out that he was going to be born. He displaced the king. He would become the king of the Jews. And so he was like really paranoid. And so he had like all the children within 10 days, within a certain time, killed. So exactly the same thing happened with Kamsa. And, and Christ was hanging out with fishermen and like lower class people. Similarly, Krishna was hanging out with the gopis and the cowherd boys in the little tiny rural village. So okay, here's Maitreya. Hi, well, Maitreya.
Hey, Krishna.
Hey, Krishna, what's wrong with your truck?
Hi, Bo. Oh, just getting an oil change, but it took 2 hours.
Oh my God. You do
And it
your oil
cost almost
changes yourself?
$100. I brought it to the dealer. What's that?
You do your oil change yourself?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm too old for that Chautauqua.
Yeah. I'm too old for that stuff myself. I had my oil change yesterday, actually, but I've got a plug-in hybrid, and so it takes like synthetic oil.
Oh yeah. Synthetic.
More expensive.
Do you use how do you jack it up? Do you use just a
Oh, I don't do it myself. I do not. I went to Midas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm too old for that stuff, like I told you.
Yeah.
But so I was just talking to I was just talking to Mike about an event that New Vrindavan is going to tomorrow. Nitya is going, all buying, like boatloads of devotees are going northeast of here to a little town called Vandergrift. You ever heard of it?
No.
It's like up 28 northeast. And they're doing a Christmas extravaganza. And so devotees have set up a booth a little ways away from the main area there. They're going to have a parade, it's like a yearly thing. One of the devotees from the Kirtan Center here in Pittsburgh is actually from there, was born and raised there in her childhood, and she moved away to Pittsburgh for 50 years, and now she just went back there. And I told her that actually, since you came back, Krishna gave the idea that to all these devotees in New Vrindavan, now it's a holy place because you live there. And so I told her, because you're there, all Krishna gave the devotees this idea to go there and do Sankirtan and book distribution. So they're going to have Harinam, they're going to have Prasadam, they're going to have 2 days. About 5,000 people are going to be there. So it's nice. I really like that the preaching and the Harinam and the book distribution is going on in New Vrindavan. And because that shows signs of life, there's these young people that have, so I'm going to go there too.
Cool.
And I wrote this little piece last year at Christmas called The Similarities Between Christ and Krishna, like Kamsa and Herod and all that. Mm-hmm. So many parallels. And then I'm going to distribute, don't tell anybody. I guess I'm telling everybody now, but I'm going to distribute the book along with that pamphlet that I printed out of my spiritual master's, I'm not going to mention any names, my spiritual master's book on Christ and Krishna.
Have you heard of Dineshwar's book on the early
Dineshwar? No, what's that?
So Dineshwar is a devotee. He's written a few books. He wrote one on spiritual economics. He wrote another one.
I think I've seen that book. I think I have that book, actually.
Okay. It's a very intellectual book. He's an intellectual. And he just wrote another one a couple of years ago about the early Christian church and how it was completely perverted by the Roman Empire, and how the Dead Sea Scrolls revealed a simple Vaishnava community, and that was eventually completely infiltrated. That was one of the big points. It was infiltrated by demons who tried to corrupt it from the inside out, and were largely successful. And
they got rid of the idea of reincarnation, didn't they?
Well, that was among the smaller things. A lot of it was making too many things seem hocus pocus. And he said the same thing is right now underway in ISKCON, that demons have infiltrated and they're corrupting things in a very systematic way. Anyway, the book could use an editor. He repeats himself a lot, and there's a lot of, so it's from a technical point of view, there's problems with it. But from a materialistic, just a research point of view, it's a lot of interesting stuff that we kind of knew already. But anyway, he documents a lot of how things were corrupted over the years.
Does he tell about how Jesus went to India?
That's not part of it.
No. Okay, this is just basically about the corruption of early Christian church. I look at it in ISKCON in the same way that Christians had the problem. And it seems like whenever there is a great leader in any religious movement that leaves, they tend to put that personality on a pedestal, make him into some kind of demigod. And, so you have to only worship him, and you don't have to pay respect.
Putting him on a pedestal, making it so that his state is unachievable by anyone else is one of the greatest disservices to because obviously none of us will ever be Prabhupada. He was a unique personality. By the same token, though, like Jesus said, be ye perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. So that means it's not that you just, like Prabhupada said, it's not that he didn't tell Arjuna, you just smoke ganja and I'll do everything. There's work required, and maybe it'll take a miracle, to be perfect. So we're all supposed to be perfect. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, we're not going to do it. But the point is, the master required it. So you fall on your knees in prayer and beg him how to do it. Right. And that's the work. So
work has to be done, even if you know the output. It's like a movie. That the heroine or the hero is going to survive because the second season is already out on the TV.
Exactly. But so like Chaitanya said that his name would be spread to every town and village. It doesn't mean
it's already done.
Ganja and he does the whole thing. We got to get our butts out there and work hard, and then he'll empower us.
Yeah. You have to become an instrument. That's the whole deal.
Exactly.
And if you don't become an instrument, Krishna could do anything. It doesn't matter. But he wants to give the credit to his devotees. Yeah. He wants to give, even though the devotees, no, I don't. Every great soul in the history of mankind has always said, not unto me, not unto me. I didn't do anything. And that's
The
the
little
truth.
one
because-
little small step after another. That cold water looks really cold in the morning, and it's a miracle every morning just to be able to get up early, do our rounds, go to the morning program. But those little steps, it's like drops of water wear away stone.
I know, and that's why I have to commend both of you for doing this on a regular basis. I'm going to try to get more people in here, and I post it every day on my Facebook page, and I actually have personally invited people. I went on that Bhakti Center Zoom class this morning, and Bhima was on there.
Huh.
Remember Bhima?
Yes, of course.
But he always has his
horses.
horses there too. So the horses were taking darshan every morning too. But it's really important to be consistent and regular. That's what I was telling Mike. It actually kind of morphs into a state of sthaya bhava. Constant state of
The
exercise.
challenge for me is I do another one from 4 to 5:30 every day, and it's every day. And I need some days, the schedule just conflicts. So anyway.
Yeah, well, no problem. Whenever you can hop on. You've seen all these verses, the thing, and I always post them on my timeline if you miss anything. But I think we're on the purport, right, Mike?
No, I think we finished the purport. We're on ready to start 52 now, I thought.
52. Okay. Mike, Maitreya, you want to, or Mike, you can do the next one.
Sure. Text 52. Yadate mohan kalilam gudhir vyati tarish yati taragantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya cha. Synonyms. Yada, when, te, your, moha, of illusion, kalilam, dense forest, buddhi, transcendental service with intelligence, yati tarishyati, surpasses, tara, at that time, ganta asi, you shall go, nirvedam, callousness, srutavyasya, toward all that is to be heard, srutasya, all that is already heard, cha, also. Translation. When your intelligence is passed out of the dense forest of delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard.
Maitreya, you want to read the first paragraph, including
Sure.
the Sanskrit there?
It's one of my favorite verses. Purport.
Yeah,
There
all
are
my
many good examples in the lives of the great devotees of the Lord, of those who became indifferent to the rituals of the Vedas simply by devotional service to the Lord. When a person factually understands Krishna and his relationship with Krishna, then he naturally becomes completely indifferent to the rituals of fruitive activities, even though an experienced Brahmana. Sri Madhavendra Puri, a great devotee and acharya in the line of the devotees, says, Sanja Vandana Bhadram Astu Bhavato Bho Snanatubhyam Namo Bho Deva Pitaras Chatarpana Vidhau Naham Kshamak Shamayatam Jatra Kvapi Nishadya Yadava Kulo Tamasya Kanksha Drisa Smaranagam Harami Tad Alam Manye Kim Anenya Me. Shall I read the translation?
Yeah.
O my prayers 3 times a day, all glory to you. O bathing, I offer my obeisances unto you. O demigods, O forefathers, please excuse me for my inability to offer you my respects. Now, wherever I sit, I can remember the great descendant of the Jadu dynasty, Krishna, the enemy of Kamsa, and thereby I can free myself from all sinful bondage. I think this is sufficient for me.
Yeah, just telling everybody, hey, I offer my respects to all of you, all of these rituals and activities. I'm out of here.
Let me tell you guys a secret. One time Jayadvaita Swami came in a room where I was just sat down to eat prasadam. Due to years of Sankirtan, my back hurts, and so I could only do a couple of rounds. The devotees would tell me just sit down, and he came in right then, and he looked at me with this disdainful look on his face, and he said, to sit down and eat prasadam before everyone has been served is the most sinful thing you can do. And I just looked at him and I said, well, I'm just going to eat prasadam and I'll become freed from all sinful activities. I'd kind of had it with him at that point. So
Right. Do you have a relationship with him? Is this a New Vrindavan or not?
No, it was in San Diego. Oh my God, this is going to be broadcast live. You're recording this. I better not say very much.
Hey, no, I mean, I remember one time I was up on the fourth floor of the Brahmacharya ashram. You remember where the old ashram was in Bahulaban? I don't know, that might be before your time. But they had in Bahulaban, they had the Prasadam room in the first floor. It burned down.
Yeah.
You know, but
Is
later
that
on.
the building that would rock back and forth during Kirtan a little bit?
What's that?
Is that the building that would rock back and forth if you had Kirtan?
No, that was the old Vrindavan farm. I'm talking about the Bahulaban building where the big Prasadam room with the marble floor, Prabhupada would have darshans in there, ishtagosis, and then on the second floor was like they had the guest house. It was actually called the guest ashram. And then on the top floor, they had the Brahmacharya ashram. And I remember I was sitting up there in the Brahmacharya ashram, you know, just like, you know, typing. I had a typewriter. Remember those?
Yeah.
And we're old. And so, you know, Chedi Raj walked in. I don't know if you've ever met Chedi Raj.
Yes, I know very well. Knew him
but anyway, he was being sarcastic. He looked at me, you know, with this disdainful look on his face, you know, just like a Jayadvaita did. And he said, "Who are you, GBC?" And he was joking, but I didn't think it was a joke. I was offended. And it took me like 20 or 30 years later thinking about that incident to realize that he was joking.
He was
a funny guy.
His body. He was such a nice devotee. Yeah.
Oh, he was unbelievable. He was so fun to be around. Before I became a Sankirtan devotee, I just waited for those guys to come back so I could tell me all the stories from out in the picture.
I remember one time in Texas, I was having a hard time, and he showed up. Just his smile and just being around him was like made it all blissful again.
I know, he was a saint. And you know, he was so humble too. We would phone in all our scores and to every night to Dharmatma, you know, and he would write, you know, Sahadev, $400, Śikṣāṣtaka Prabhu, $200, and then the little tiny letters he would put Chedi retard, $700. But you know, he had such a sense of humor, you know. But you know, he left this world, you know. But anyway, I guess he left just in time before all the stuff hit the fan in New Vrindavan. So what is the last paragraph here? And who's reading? I guess I'm reading. Yeah. The Vedic rites and rituals are imperative for neophytes, comprehending all kinds of prayer 3 times a day, taking a bath early in the morning, offering respect to the forefathers, etc. That's just what you were talking about, like eating prasad and taking a bath. But when one is fully Krishna conscious and is engaged in his transcendental living service, one becomes indifferent to all these regulative principles because he has already attained perfection. If one can reach this platform by understanding by service to the Supreme Lord Krishna, and he no longer has to execute different types of penances and sacrifices as recommended in the revealed scriptures. And similarly, if one has not understood that the purpose of the Vedas is to reach Krishna and simply engages in the rituals, etc., then he's uselessly wasting time in such engagements. Person in Krishna consciousness transcend the limit of Shabda Brahma, or the range of the Vedas and Upanishads. Go ahead, Mike.
Text 53. Shruti viprat panite yara stasyati nishchala samada vachala buddhis tara yogam avapsyasi. Synonyms. Shruti, a Vedic revelation. Viprat epani, without being influenced by the fruit of results. Te, your. Yada, when. Syashyati, remains. Nischala, unmoved. Samadha, in transcendental consciousness or Krishna consciousness. Achala, unflinching. Buddhi, intelligence. Tara, at that time. Yogam, self-realization. Avapsyasi, you will achieve. Translation. When your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, then you will have attained the divine consciousness.
Purport. To say that one is in samadhi is to say that one has fully realized Krishna consciousness. That is, one in full samadhi has realized Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. The highest perfection of self-realization is to understand that one is eternally the servitor of Krishna and that one's only business is to discharge one's duties in Krishna consciousness. A Krishna conscious person or unflinching devotee of the Lord should not be disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, nor be engaged in fruitive activities for promotion to the heavenly kingdom. In Krishna consciousness, one comes directly into communion with Krishna, and thus all directions from Krishna may be understood in that transcendental state. One is sure to achieve the results by such activities and attain conclusive knowledge. One has only to carry out the orders of Krishna or as representative of the spiritual master. Go ahead, Maitreya.
Arjuna Uvacha Stita Pragyasya Ka Bhasa Bhasha Samadhistasya Keshava Stitadi Kim Prabhasheta Kimasita Brajeta Kim. Arjuna Uvacha, Arjuna said, Stita Pragyasya, of one who is situated in fixed Krishna consciousness. Ka, what? Bhasha, language. Samadhistasya, of one situated in trance. Keshava, O Krishna. Stitadi, one fixed in Krishna consciousness. Kim, what? Prabhasheta, speaks. Kim, how? Alasita, does remain still. Brajeta, walks. Kim, how? Translation, Arjuna said, O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak and what is his language? How does he sit and how does he walk?
You know, it's interesting because I'm just reading the Lord Chaitanya's walk going to Vrindavan, and it talks about the times after the devotees from Bengal come and different provinces around Jagannath Puri, they come and it seems like there's some devotees every year after the Jagannath Rath Yatra, at least after the first and second year, they ask them the same question, which is exactly this question. How do you know who is a Vaishnava? And Lord Chaitanya explains to them who is a Vaishnava, who is first class Vaishnava, second class Vaishnava, third class Vaishnava. And because, you know, in order to actually attain Krishna consciousness, you have to understand who is a Vaishnava and then get knowledge from that person. So I think it's interesting. That's a very important question. So, Mike, you want to read the purport?
Sure. As there are symptoms for each and every man in terms of his particular situation, similarly, one who is Krishna conscious has a particular nature, talking, walking, thinking, feeling, etc. As a rich man has his symptoms by which he is known as a rich man, as a diseased man has his symptoms by which he is known as diseased, whereas a learned man has his symptoms, so a man in transcendental consciousness of Krishna has specific symptoms in various dealings. One can know his specific symptoms from the Bhagavad-gītā. Most important is how the man in Krishna consciousness speaks, for speech is the most important quality of any man. It is said that a fool is undiscovered as long as he does not speak, and certainly a well-dressed fool cannot be identified unless he speaks. But as soon as he speaks, he reveals himself at once. The immediate symptom of a Krishna conscious man is that he speaks only of Krishna and of matters relating to him. Other symptoms then automatically follow, as stated below.
Text 55, Sri Bhagavan Avacha Prajahati Yada Kamam Sarva Parta Manogatan Atmani Evatmana Tushta Stita Pragnas Tadochite. Synonym, Sri Bhagavan Avacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, Prajahati gives up Yada when Kamam desires for sense gratification, Sarvan of all varieties, Parto, son of Prita, Managata, mental concoction, Atmani, in the pure state of the soul, Eva, certainly Atmana, by the purified mind, Tushta, satisfied, Stita Pragna, translated situated, Tada, at that time, Uchate, it is said. Translation, the Supreme Personality of God had said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arises from mental concoction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. That's interesting to me because, you know, if you're free from all kinds of mental concoction, in other words, when you're connected with Krishna, And everything else is a mental concoction, and that leads to sense gratification. So when you're purified, when you surrender to Krishna 100% at every moment, then you are not allured by any kind of desires for sense gratification. And I think I saw a meme today that Prabhupada was talking about. This is the test of a pure devotee, that he no longer has any desire for sense gratification. And the way that it happens is from mental concoction, from like making up your own mind. That's why, they say, Bhaktisiddhanta said, as soon as you get up in the morning, you should beat yourself in the head with a broom or a shoe. I'm not sure which one is which. And then the evening with the same thing, because you always have to say, you always have to control your mind. The mind is the best friend or the worst enemy. So therefore, you should train it. And whenever it deviates from the path of Krishna or Krishna consciousness, you have to keep it in line, because, otherwise it's just like like the diorama where you're seated on a chariot and the five senses are just like uncontrolled horses. You probably know all about that, Maitreya. How many horses do you have?
2.
2? Yeah. They can be uncontrolled. They'll just start running away. Let's see here. I think it's your turn, Maitreya, isn't it?
The Bhagavad-gītā affirms that any person who is fully in Krishna consciousness or devotional service of the Lord has all the good qualities of the great sages, whereas a person who is not so transcendentally situated has no good qualifications, because he is sure to be taking refuge in his own mental concoctions. Consequently, it is rightly said herein that one has to give up all kinds of sense desire manufactured by mental concoction. Artificially, such sense desires cannot be stopped. But if one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, then automatically sense desires subside without extraneous efforts. Therefore, one has to engage himself in Krishna consciousness without hesitation, for this devotional service will instantly help one onto the platform of transcendental consciousness. The highly developed soul always remains satisfied in himself by realizing himself as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord. Such a transcendentally situated person has no sense desires resulting from petty materialism. Rather, he remains always happy in his natural position of eternally serving the Supreme Lord.
I don't know how much time we have left here, but I guess we can keep going as long as it doesn't run out here. I haven't got any warnings.
So I have to get off in 9 minutes. So
9 minutes. Okay, we'll do one more verse and then I'll call it a day. And then you're going to your other thing, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. See, now you're not going to have any desires for sense gratification because you're always engaged in these activities.
Someday.
Mike, go ahead. Text 56.
Text 56. Dukeshva anu vigna mana sukeshu vigata spraha itaraga baya kroda snita dur manur uchyate. Dukeshu, in the threefold miseries, anugvigna mana, without being agitated in mind, sukeshu, in happiness, vigata spraha, without being interested, vita, free from, raga, attachment, baya, fear, kroda, and anger, stita dihi, whose mind is steady, muni, a sage, uchyate, is called. Translation: one who is not disturbed in mind even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a stage of steady mind.
Maitreya, you want to read the final purport here?
Okay, the word muni means one who can agitate his mind in various ways for mental speculation without coming to a factual conclusion. It is said that every muni has a different angle of vision. And unless a muni differs from other munis, he cannot be called a muni in the strict sense of the term. Nasa Vrishir Yasya Mata Na Bina, Mahabharat Vanaparva 3:131:17. But a Stita Di Muni, as mentioned herein by the Lord, is different from an ordinary Muni. The Stita Di Muni is always in Krishna consciousness, for he has exhausted all of his business of creative speculation. He is called Prashantanihesha Mano Ratantara, Strotaratna 43, or one who has surpassed the stage of mental speculations and has come to the conclusion that Lord Sri Krishna or Vasudeva is everything. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. He is called a Muni fixed in mind. Such a fully Krishna conscious person is not at all disturbed by the onslaughts of the threefold miseries, for he accepts all miseries as the mercy of the Lord, thinking himself only worthy of more trouble due to his past misdeeds. And he sees that his miseries, by the grace of the Lord, are minimized to the lowest. Similarly, when he is happy, he gives credit to the Lord, thinking himself unworthy of the happiness. He realizes that it is due only to the Lord's grace that he is in such a comfortable condition and able to render better service to the Lord. And for the service of the Lord, he is always daring and active and is not influenced by attachment or aversion. Attachment means accepting things for one's own sense gratification, and detachment is the absence of such sensual attachment. But one fixed in Krishna consciousness has neither attachment nor detachment because his life is dedicated in the service of the Lord. Consequently, he is not at all angry even when his attempts are unsuccessful. Success or no success, a Krishna conscious person is always steady in his determination.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea that, if you have any trouble, it's just due to your own misdeeds.
Yeah.
I know personally, I deserve to be killed at least a couple of times, so, and whatever happiness, I've really got it here, good here, in this house, all kinds of facility. I don't have to work. I haven't worked for like 2 years. My wife wears the pants in the family and I'm just engaged in reading, books. So it's an awesome situation, but I can't take it for granted. I have to always surrender so that I don't have any attachment to any place, including this house, because the house
So
of the
by
body can
your
be.
past devotional activities, Krishna has given you facility. That's a nice understanding.
Yeah. And then it carries on to the next life too. If you haven't really completed your activities of devotion in this life, then you'll get a nice situation in your next life. In the family of a Brahmana or a rich family, you don't have to work so much, and you can dedicate your life to devotional service again and complete your activities in that way, and then get the heck out of here. It's a good deal. I recommend it. Anyway, thank you very much for Bruce.
Thank you for your association with Hare Krishna.
Haribo.